difficulties that have now come to light with the Chinese government and restricting the vaccines coming back into Canada. When were you aware that there was issues with the deal with CanSino?
So first of all, Mr. Cumming, thank you for welcoming me. I look forward to work with you. You and I already had a conversation, and this is really my style. So let us look back when this all started. We all know that in March 11, the World Health Organization declared a pandemic. At that time and about today, you have about 234 vaccines candidate around the world. And on the advice, to be more specific to your question, of the vaccine task force, we did look at the candidate that you mentioned, but this was about for 3 months, something like from April to May to August. And after that, we discontinued the discussion. But even before that, and I think that's important for Canadians who are watching, we were within 12 days of the World Health Organization talking about or declaring a pandemic, we were investing 192 million to have biomanufacturing here in Canada. And within a month, we had invested close to 792 million. So my point is just to put that in context for Canadians watching. When you have 234 vaccine candidates in the world, we rely on science, we rely on the advice of experts. But the episode that you're talking about is a very short episode in a very long process where we looked at that for about 3 months, but then we decided to discontinue the discussion.
But when did you actually provide advice to NRC that maybe this wouldn't be a good company to do business with? And when you saw that the Chinese government was restricting supply, how involved were you? Did you intervene on behalf of Canada with the Chinese government?
Well, like I said, Mr. Cumming, if you look at I would say, the portfolio of vaccines we have today, these discussions were for a very brief moment, because after that we moved on and we selected the pillars, I would say, which will do that will be the pillar of our resilience here in Canada when it comes to biomanufacturing. You talk about Medicago, you talk about Vino, you talk about Abcellera in Vancouver, and now with Novavax. So my point is that following that, we selected with Minister Anand 7 vaccine candidates around the world. 2 of them have been approved, the Pfizer and Moderna by Health Canada, and that's the rollout that we have in Canada. So the episode you're talking about was just one of the different vaccines candidate that was looked at the very early stage. And then we moved on quickly. And now today we have the largest portfolio of vaccines to provide and obviously to protect the health and safety of Canadians.
Well, let's talk about quickly. So let's go to Royal Mount. And there seems to be some confusion over this facility. And if you take a comparative to the UK, who actually built their domestic manufacturing capacity much quicker than Canada, Royal Mount, the Prime Minister announced that the facility should be open or should be construction complete in July. You were quoted to say, no, fit up's going to take a couple more months. Now we hear that likely, at best, they might get their assembly started and approved by the end of December. And now the discussion is that it may not be into full production until after December, potentially into the new year. Which date is it? When will we actually see vaccine production in Canada?
Well, thank you for the question. And let me be very clear. You have 4 phases when you build a plant. You have the design phase, the construction phase, the certification phase, and the production phase. So I think we should all rejoice first as parliamentarians that Novavax has chosen Canada. When I talked to the CEO, they could have gone in about 7 or 8 countries where they already have manufacturing facilities, but they chose Canada, which is the good news. So what did I say in the Prime Minister is that construction, we expect construction to be completed by the end of the summer. Then you have a period of certification, which could be a couple of months, because as you know, this is about good manufacturing practices, and this is governed by Health Canada in accordance with their processes. And Canadians would understand we want to go fast, but we want to make sure it's that we respect all the health and safety protocols. And following that, we would go in production. So what did I say is that we would be producing a vaccine before the end of the year in that facility in Royal Mount. And we are very pleased, I must say, and we should, you and I and every Canadian should think that having Novavax And we were lucky because, in a way, the manufacturing process that we have in Royalmount is compatible with the Novavax vaccine. The second thing that made the CEO chose Canada was speed, and obviously a very stable, predictable security of supply market. I think that's good news because we need to be prudent and resilient for the future.
So did you not look at the potential of retrofit of existing facilities early on to this game? So starting from scratch, foundations, putting up a building, building a brand new facility, where was the effort for a rapid response within, there's lots of industry in Canada.
Well, totally. I mean, and thank you for asking.
MP Cumming, you're out of time, but I will let the minister answer quickly because I know that this is an important subject. Minister?
Yes, I mean, let me just say to Mr. Cumming, we receive about 87 applications under the Strategic Innovation Funds. So I must say we looked at all that, and then we were looking at project, or I would say the task force is looking at project, and their filter is obviously to look at what is feasible, the science, the technology, and what can be deployed very quickly to provide a vaccine to Canadians. That's how they were looking at when they were providing advice to this government.
Channel Report.
Within 10 years, Canada's domestic biomanufacturing ecosystem has eroded. Although companies perform a considerable amount of R&D here in Canada, few products were commercialized for public use. Then the previous government cut the funding at Industry Canada that supported life science companies and attracted new investment in Canada. Depuis lors, un certain nombre d'entreprises.
Since then, a significant number of companies and investments have left Canada, and here are a few examples. 2007, AstraZeneca closed down its manufacturing activities in Canada and consolidated these activities in its manufacturing facilities that are based in Sweden. In 2010, Johnson & Johnson closed down its research centre in Montreal. In 2011, Teva closed one of its manufacturing Canadian plants here in Montreal, and in 2013, Boehringer Ingelheim closed its R&D centre in Laval, which was concentrating on hepatitis C and HIV. So also, colleagues, in 1973, around 19% of Canadian domestic demand for vaccines and therapeutic drugs was met by imports. Today, Canada imports 85% of its vaccines and therapeutics.
From the earliest stages of the pandemic, our government recognized the need to increase our domestic capacity to make vaccines and therapeutics in Canada. We invested early and significantly. I would say that we took immediate actions with a long-term vision. And let me highlight for you colleagues a few of the many investments we made since March 2020. Mais ce qu'il faut rappeler aussi, Madame la Présidente, c'est qu'en général,
we have to recall also, in general, setting up a new pharmaceutical manufacturing facility has to follow, of course, good manufacturing practices, and normally it can take 2 to 5 years. Given the crisis, we're going to make considerable efforts to expedite this and cut down on the timing required. We've invested $126 million to construct a new biologics manufacturing centre in the Royalmount campus of the National Research Council. Once it's fully up and running later this year, this new centre will be able to domestically produce around 2 million doses of vaccines per month. This week, we have signed a memorandum of understanding with Novavax to continue with domestic manufacturing of its COVID-19 vaccine in this new biologics manufacturing centre in Montreal. The government has also invested $44 million to build a clinical test manufacturing centre on the Royalmount campus. That means that the National Research Council will be able to produce material for clinical trials and also possibly emergency vaccine doses.
We also invested $23 million to help the University of Saskatchewan's Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization International Vaccine Center, or as we call it, the VIDO Intervac, to help accelerate the development of its COVID-19 vaccine candidate, and another $12 million to transform its current animal vaccine production facility to meet the standards required for the production of human vaccine. Notre gouvernement sait que le secteur
Our government knows that the private sector plays an important role in research and development to encourage the development of vaccines and also to further biomanufacturing capacity. So the government from the outset, in the first few months of the pandemic, dedicated 792 million under the Strategic Innovation Fund in order to design vaccines and therapeutics here in Canada, as well as to strengthen the biomanufacturing activities. And colleagues in Quebec will know that Medicago, a company that's got over 20 years in producing vaccines, has obtained support that could reach $173 million. And these funds will allow Medicago to expedite clinical trials and also to build a vaccine production facility that will also produce antibodies in compliance with good manufacturing practices. And the government has committed to acquiring up to 76 million doses of the Medicago vaccine candidate if it can prove its efficacy.
The fund has also invested up to $56 million in Variation Biotechnologies to develop a COVID-19 vaccine in its Ottawa research facility, and up to $25 million in Precision Nanosystems of Vancouver to support their breakthrough lipid nanoparticle technology. In conclusion, Madame la Présidente, le gouvernement
Madam Chair, the government is aware of the fact that efficient vaccine rollout is the best way to restart the Canadian economy while also protecting Canadians' health in the long term. In the fall economic statement, we committed to exploring means of reinforcing the biomanufacturing capacity and how we could intervene in long term in Canada in the event of a pandemic. Canada wants to move ahead, drawing on its talents and its innovative edge. We're able to benefit from the collective effort of highly competent people.
Seize the moment. Let's be ambitious and let's together build a resilient biomanufacturing sector here in Canada. Madame la Présidente.